Hello friends, welcome to Learning. My name is Dr. Ben. Today we are going to learn some awesome stuff. Learning is for everyone. Let's make it fun and let's enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the Excel version 2019 using formula and functions learning series. Today we will discuss using count functions. Let's get started. If you are enjoying the series, click the like button below. Also, click the subscribe button to receive notifications of new lessons and modules. Let's take a look at the learning objectives for this module. At the end of this module, you will be able to use the count function, use the CountA function, use the CountBlank function, and use the CountIf function. As you begin to analyze data or statistical data in a worksheet, there may be times when you need to determine how many cells contain numeric or text values, or you may simply want to know how many cells are empty within a large worksheet. Excel provides the count, CountA, and CountBlank functions, which can each assist with these types of analyses. In this module, we're going to discuss the use and the structure of the count functions in Excel. The count and CountA functions are found in the statistical category of the formula library. That's going to be right here. Let's bring that up. The formulas library right here. And here you can look and find out those functions here in the statistical function here. We have the count function, which is down here, and the CountA function. Also, the CountBlank function is here as well. All three functions are used to analyze specified data ranges to determine how many cells contain values and cells that contain blank values. Let's take a look at the count function. The count function is used to indicate how many cells contain a numeric value. Numeric values can include constants, cell references, and ranges. The types of numbers that are counted include negative numbers, percentages, dates, time, and fractions. Empty cells, text values, and the logical values, true and false, are ignored and are not counted. Similar to all functions, these functions begin with an equal sign followed by the name and the opening parentheses. The value 1 argument is required and typically refers to all cell ranges. All other arguments are optional. Let's take a look at the count function. In front of us here we have a simple survey that reads, do you enjoy temperatures below 20 degrees? Yes or no? We have our participants right here, 1 through 15, and they've all answered with yes or no's. Let's find out how many participants actually responded to the survey. We can eyeball it and see that there's 15, but let's go ahead and do a count on that to make sure. We're putting the cell or the cursor in our cell B20, beginning with our equal sign, spelling the word count. It comes up in our IntelliSense. I'm going to hit tab since that's the first one. Tab. I'm going to select my cell ranges from B5 down through B19. Close my parentheses by hitting the return key, and the answer is 15 as you see here. That is our count function. Let's also count the answers that we have in front of us here. Placing my cursor in C20, hitting my equal sign and typing in the word count. Notice my IntelliSense has the word count appearing. I hit my tab key. My value 1 shows and value 2. I'm going to select, here we are, B or C5 all the way down to C19 and let go, hit my return key, and it shows a 0. And why is that? It is 0 because remember, the count function ignores the logical values true and false. Those are ignored. So this is actually correct. It shows 0. So how do we account for the yes and no values? Let's take a look at the CountA function. The CountA function counts the number of cells that are not empty in a specified range. Values that are counted include numbers, text, logical values, error values, and empty text strings. The CountA function does not count cells that are completely empty. Once again, the function begins with an equal sign followed by the name and opening parentheses. The value 1 argument is required and typically refers to a range of cells. All other arguments are optional. Let's take a look at that count function for the answers here. I'm going to go back into this cell. Let's go and clear this out. Delete this. We're going to use the CountA function to count the logical values. Placing my equal sign in C20, typing in count. The count shows, but I don't want that. I want the next one down, CountA. Hit tab. Now we're going to select C5 down through C19, hitting my enter key, 15. We have 15 total answers here for this by using the CountA, which counted the logical values. Let's take a look at the CountBlank function. The count and CountA functions are quite beneficial in counting the number of cells that have a supported value entered. However, both these functions do not count the number of cells that, when evaluated, return a blank value. There may be circumstances, especially in financial analysis worksheets, where you might need to determine how many cells return a blank value when evaluated. The CountBlank function counts the number of empty or blank cells in a specified range. Any cells that include numbers, text, logical values, and error values are not counted. Now let's consider the following here. When we use the CountBlank function, cells that contain 0 are not considered blank and will not be counted because 0 is a number. For example, if I have this cell here, a 0 here, and a 0 here, blank, blank, blank. Let's see here. Let's put a border here so I can see what I'm looking at. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 blank cells here. These zeros are not considered blanks. They are actual numbers. If a cell contains a formula that returns an empty string, Excel will consider the cell blank and will count that cell. Empty string means that if we have something like this, a value entered and then the cell is empty, space, that's an empty string. Excel will count that as a blank. Now remember, in this function, the function begins with an equal sign followed by the name and the open parentheses and so on as before. Let's count these blanks and see what comes up. Here my equal sign, count blank, there it is. I hit my tab key. I have my cursor in H5 all the way down through H, what is that, 10? There we go. And 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice we did not count the zeros because those are numbers. Numbers. So the CountBlank function is working correctly. Let's take a look at an instance where we have our donut fair and we have some information to fill out in our worksheet here from that donut fair. We have a last name, first name, how many tickets are available, the email addresses, and some have no email addresses. Let's do a count of participants. We're going to count these participants by last name. What function should we use? Count, CountA, or CountBlank function? We're going to use the CountA function. Because of what? The CountA function counts the number of cells that are not empty in a specified range. You're going to count those, okay? So let's go ahead and count those names. equal count A. Selecting H30 down through H36. We have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 last name participants. Now, we're going to count of the missing email addresses. What do we do for that? We're counting missing email addresses. So that's going to be a count blank because these are blank here. I'm taking my cursor and placing it in K39. I'm going to hit my equal sign, open parentheses, count blank. Hit my return key, my tab key, selecting let's say K30, all the way down through K36. Letting go, hit my return key. What does it state? We have found a typo in your formula. What is that typo? Let's see, I don't hit that. I don't see a typo. Let me get out of this and start over again. Escape. Equal. Blank. I think I saw my typo. And we have 3. There's 3 spaces here. Those are our blank email addresses. As far as that typo is concerned, I believe I placed a parentheses after my equal sign manually, and that's not the way to do it. Our next one is count of those with a ticket. We're going to count those with a ticket. So which one should this be? Counting those with a ticket. Equal count. How about count A? There's 4 with a ticket, and these with the blanks do not have tickets. I want to count of those without a ticket. Count those without a ticket. What function would I use? The CountBlank function, you're correct. The CountBlank function counts the number of empty or blank cells in a specified range. CountBlank. I'm selecting the entire range, closing it up, J30 through J36. And it says 3 of those without tickets, and eyeballing it, it is correct. So as you see here, these functions, count A, CountBlank functions, are very valuable when you have your worksheet such as this, which is a larger worksheet you may have, and you can use these functions to add up your numbers. Let's take a look at now the CountIf function. We use the CountIf function to count the number of cells that meet a specific criterion. For example, to count the number of times a particular city appears in a customer list, or a particular name from that customer list, or a certain phrase from maybe a survey. The CountIf function will help you meet this task. In the survey in front of you, we have a number of Y's for yes and N's for no to count. Let's count them. I'm placing my cursor in B22 for my yes responses, B23 no responses, B24 blank responses, and B25 totals. The totals are going to be the number of responses that are total. They should match the answers totals right here. Let's begin. I'm placing my B22 response equal CountIf tab, selecting my range from C5 to C19, comma, beginning quotation, yes, Y for yes, ending quotation, and return key, the 6. For the no responses, equal CountIf tab, select my range, placing my comma for my criteria, beginning quotation, no, or N for no, ending quotation. Blank responses equal count blank, tab, selecting my range, and then return. For totals equal sum, selecting my range B22 through B24, 15, and they match each other, which is great. I mentioned earlier that you may want to copy or count the number of phrases in a survey, maybe a qualitative survey. You may want to count the number of times a student said, "I like the class." Let's do it again. I like the class and I like the class. There's 3 of them. Let's count those. Equal CountIf, selecting my range, comma, quotation, I like the class, ending quotation. There's 3. One thing you must be aware of when you're looking at these qualitative responses here. If I'm off by, say, if I have a space there, it's going to count as 2. So you have to be very specific with your qualitative responses. If you have a space there, it won't count it. Space is gone, it's just 3. So be careful when you're looking at the responses to make sure that they're exactly the same. If you have an extra period there, or space, extra character, it's going to count what you put inside these quotation marks here. So this is the end of our count series. So let's go ahead and look at the knowledge check. It's time for our knowledge check. Today, we're going to go through a practice exercise together. Go ahead and click the Dropbox link below. Download the Project CountA Excel spreadsheet and return to the lesson when you are ready. Have opened the Materials Received tab. In this practical exercise, you have a bathroom remodeling project at home and wish to count all the materials needed for the project. You also want a running percentage of products that have been received from an online purchase via delivery or picked up at a big box or hardware store. Which count function mentioned in this lesson would you use? Place your functions in cell B14 right here and in cells D3. From what we've learned so far, we can either use the count, CountA, or CountBlank functions. Placing my cell in B14, I'm going to use the CountA function to count the materials that I need. I'm using the CountA function because I want to count all non-empty cells, both text and numbers. In that cell, I'm going to use my equal sign to start off my function and type in the CountA function. It appears in my IntelliSense. I'm using my tab key, and now my parentheses are open. I'm going to take my mouse now and copy cells A6 through cells A13. Hitting enter, and I have 8. Wonderful. Now I'm going to go to cell D3. I want the percentage of materials received. I'm also going to use my CountA function here again. I'm going to click in my equal sign, type in CountA, take my mouse now and go over to the received column, column E6, and drag it all the way down to E13. It's covering all of my materials that I'm going to receive. Let it go, click enter, and there we have it. But guess what? I'm not done yet. Going back up to cell D3, I have the count that I need. Now I need the percentage. I'm taking my cursor now, placing it in my formula bar, hitting my divide sign for division, placing my cursor now on cell B14, which is the materials count. I'm not going to use a constant. I'm going to use the actual formula there, or the actual cell reference, that is. taking my mouse back up there. Okay, it's blinking. I'm going to use my multiplication for a percentage there times 100. That'll give me that percentage. And now I'm going to hit my equal sign or enter sign. Going back up to cell E6, typing in a yes for the materials received. It doesn't matter what I type in here, what character. I'm going to use it capital Y. Enter. Notice I have 13% now in my D3. 13% has been received. Another Y. 25%. Another Y. 38%. Let's put all Y's here. I received them all. I'm at 75%. And another Y. 88%. What's missing here? Number 9. Y. 100% has been received. So in closing here, you can use the CountA function for a variety of tasks and also combine it with other functions and formulas as I've demonstrated here. This CountA function is very powerful. It's the most frequently used function in Excel as it counts entries in a list as you've seen here. It tracks survey responses, and basically it is an all-around good function to use for your analytical data. Now please continue to find ways of using these 3 functions. Remember, there's more than one way to utilize these functions. Find the best strategy for your use. What did we learn from this module? In this module, you're now able to use the count function, use the CountA function, use the CountBlank function, and use the CountIf function. This is the end of Module 4. Stay tuned for Module 5 using logical functions. Thank you for your time today and have a great day. Goodbye.